Hello, welcome. 8-9 Rugby for another week. Brett McKay with you, and I'll explain why in a minute in the guest chair this week from HG Rugby on YouTube and about 4 other channels as well. Huw Griffin, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, mate. Good morning. I don't know if you've ever heard the analogy that my friends refer to me as sand because I get everywhere. I'm on that many channels. Although my friend Hattie from Rugby History Podcast amended that slightly to glitter. She says she is glitter, which I think is much more interesting and glamorous than sand. But I think probably sand is more accurate. But Brett, as I give you time for your vocal cords to warm up, the thing about rugby union is that it truly is a global community, which means that in order to successfully converse about it and be knowledgeable about it, you genuinely need to know about what's going on the other side of the world.
Absolutely.
However, for us podcasters, that does occasionally mean that one of us has to get up at a very inconvenient time of the day.
Yes.
And this week, I am lucky enough that it is you.
This week it is me. Yes, it's the early hours for me, but that's all right. We will power on. We've done this before. I sound a little bit deeper than I would normally, but that's all right. It's all right. So a quick recap of how this is going to work in 2026. This is the next evolution of what you know and love of the 8-9 combo. Harry's departure means the combo part has made way for a whole host of guest hosts each week rather than a permanent co-host. And though there'll be times where we will probably set up old school interview type chats with a third guest. What it does also mean is that we're mostly going to run with 2 voices each week, which also means shorter episodes, quicker turnaround times, easy production, all that sort of stuff as well. And it does open the door for the return of Harry Jones before too long. And we are both very much looking forward to that. So, mate, as I did with Charlie Morgan last week, I'm going to start with a sincere thank you for your advice and support over the Australian summer as I contemplated what to do with the 8-9. And you very, very similarly said, let's just keep going. So for that, mate, very, very gratefully, thank you. It was really good to hear everyone's opinions, and everyone's opinion was just, mate, just keep going.
I think what people who maybe don't do YouTube and things like this maybe don't comprehend is how lonely it can be, and you really don't know. You don't have any colleagues.
Yeah.
There's no school that you go to. You don't know if you're doing it right. So it's really only when you have other YouTubers on your channel that you can, like, in between recordings go, hey, by the way, I do this. Is that right?
Yeah.
And they go, I don't know. I've been doing it like this forever. And when you do get, because what I'm saying is, for me as well, it's good to talk to someone else about it, because I don't know whether what I'm doing is right or good or the thing that should be done. So when we talk and you say, I've seen this, and I go, I've seen that too, then that's at least reassuring that at least 2 of us are wrong.
At least we're either both right or both wrong. Exactly right. Yes.
No, you get those emails from like AI generated emails of like people like, hey, we love your channel, we can promote it, we can turn your podcast into the next biggest thing.
Yeah. Every now and again, I actually love challenging them. And so I've had someone say, hey, we love what you've done with bmcsport.com.au. We think we can make it better. And I only recently converted that to a link tree page. So I've actually went back to one of them and said, cool, tell me what you like. Never heard from them.
Yeah, I got the most evil one that I ever got was from one and it said, hi, we've noticed views on your channel are low lately. We can help you solve that problem. We can help you save your channel if you just get in contact with us. And that very wickedly preys on the inherent insecurity that you always have as
the
YouTube.
Aforementioned, yes.
It doesn't matter how many people watched your last video, you are convinced that no one will watch the next one. And that's a horrible feeling. And yeah, I also nearly got scammed, because I got an email from a VPN company saying, we want to sponsor you to do an ad read on the show. And I thought, oh, cool. VPNs are a thing.
Ad reads on YouTube channels are definitely a thing by VPNs as well. Yeah,
I thought, this is cool, and it works. And I was like, I know a lot of rugby fans use VPNs, so I was like, yeah, cool, we'll do it. And then like the first alarm bell was like, it was stupid money. It was like $400 for a 60-second read, and I was like, okay. And then I kept going and digging, And then after a couple more emails being exchanged, and I started to feel like these emails are written by AI.
Yeah.
The last one, it says, all you need to do is install this line of code on your laptop.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
I'm not going to pursue this any further.
No, I'm good here now. Yeah. Suddenly I don't need a VPN. Yeah. Very good. Sorry. That was an inopportune gulp of tea there. His cheers is continuing, mate. And I've given you a little bit of homework coming into this week. So what are you cheering from around the rugby world from the weekend?
Well, I hope that I'm not stealing yours when I say that I am cheering the predecessor of me on this podcast last week, Charlie Morgan, for his move from the Telegraph to the Times, which in rugby journalistic circles is up there with Ardie Savea moving from Hurricanes to Moana Pacific area. It would be like Marcus Smith leaving Harlequins and joining Saracens. It is a huge transfer in the rugby journalists. And I've had the very, very good fortune to meet Charlie in real life, ironically at a Harlequins game. And he was so nice to me that it actually made me feel a little bit bad, because he was like, he knew who I was, which was massively humbling. And then he was like, oh, if you need this, if you need help talking to this person, you need to get in contact with anybody, just, here's my number, get in touch with me anytime you want. And I was like, I can't do anything for you.
Mate, I am not helping you write better. No, you're right. And the funny side of that is that we last week said, go to the Telegraph for one more week to read Charlie. And so we made it clear that he was moving on. And at the very end, after I'd hit stop, he said, did we actually mention the Times? And we didn't. So yeah. So two on that topic, two really good points. One of Charlie's last things for the Telegraph was to explain how he did his first ever co-commentary stint on a championship game
with Sam Roberts, who I also met at that same game.
There you go. With Sam Roberts, and he loved it, and he told me he loved it. And then his first pieces for the Times this week are typically great. And it honestly, you're just reading the same guy. So yeah, no, Charlie, I hope the move has gone well for you. I'm going to cheers for you, mate. France, and I'm just going to say this: no one does pre-game like the French. Lots of national unions try, but none pull off the same pure theatre as the French do. And just for a few minutes in the early hours of my last Friday morning ahead of France-Ireland, I forgot that I was up at the hour I was to watch rugby, because it's just become an art form. And the French are miles in front of what they do in a pre-game. It's phenomenal.
It's really special. I know it's not particularly easy for everybody. I've been lucky enough to see 3 rugby matches in France, all club games. Like the best show at a rugby match I've ever been to by miles was Toulon versus Toulouse at Marseille Velodrome, where it was like the game was a bit of a blowout in the end to lose, but the pre-game show is the thing that I remember. And it wasn't like a Super Bowl halftime show. It wasn't like some singer down on the pitch that you can't really see, echoey audio and stuff. It was like the stadium was the show, and there was tifos, and it was really traditional as well, and really true to what it is, and uniquely rugby. And I also went to a UBB game in December last year, and the pre-game show maybe wasn't all that. There's some people said that for Europe it wasn't as good because it was a Champions Cup game, but the atmosphere and stuff in the stadium, people are excited to be there. People want to be there. The vibe is so different to what you get in the UK. In the UK, it's a lot of like, you sit in your seat and you go on then, impress me. Whereas in France, it's like, we're here, let's do this.
Yeah. No, it is just incredible. It really is just incredible. And it feels like, to me, I think we're seeing more. I feel like there was more Irish fans in the stadium last week in Paris. And it feels like there's more fans of other nations making the trip to Paris to experience that for themselves. Where I don't know. Maybe that's something that it feels like you're seeing, but it's actually no different to what it was. But
well, it being a Thursday night probably meant that there was fewer than there might normally have been. But it's 100% a destination. I've seen lots of Welsh fans, and I'm one of them, going, I don't particularly want to watch Wales, thank you, at the moment. But given that it's France coming to town, I do quite fancy watching France.
Yes, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. The Great Rugby Chats will resume for 2026 in just a minute, but a quick reminder to subscribe to 89 Rugby wherever you're watching or wherever you're listening. If you're on YouTube, it's the red subscribe button down there in the bottom corner. If you're listening on any of the pod platforms, like, follow, subscribe as you need to, wherever you are, and make sure your notifications are turned on so you don't miss any of this really long intro. Six Nations round one, mate. The results are the results. France beat Ireland 36-14. Italy 18 beat Scotland 15, and we are definitely going to talk about that in a second. England were pretty comfortable, 48-7 over Wales in the end. I feel like we've got to start with Italy, and so my question to you is: are we all horrendously underestimating Italy in 2026?
I don't know is the answer, because
that's a good answer. I like that,
because it rained, and I've said this a couple of times now. Like, it rained isn't an analysis of a rugby match. However, as we saw, in the third Lions test, it really raining has as much of an impact on a rugby match as a particular long pass or a tense decision to kick or run or whatever it happens to be. It's unavoidable. And Italy scored the second of their 2 tries on the 13th minute, and then after that only scored 2 penalty kicks at goal in the whole game. That was enough to win. And that kind of shows you that at the point where the rain really started coming down, it was always so much in Italy's favor by having that score advantage. And if you look at the stats from the rest of the game, Italy they finished up with 36% possession, 31% territory. And when you consider how much of those figures they would have had in that first 10-15 minutes compared to the rest, that shows that how they were not rescued, but how the conditions were on their side from that moment on, and really against Scotland. And they made 226 tackles. I was
going to say they defended unbelievably well in the conditions.
Yeah, and like that last defensive set, what was it, 30 phases? And I think it reminded me of England versus Argentina in November last year, where the call would have just been, lads, no penalties. Just like, go backwards if you have to, no penalties. Because I would have been interested to see if Scotland would have gone for the draw to kick 3 and take it, or whether they would have gone for the win. It's one of those where, because I had this with the Scarlets lately, where when I'm a neutral, I'm like, draws are for losers. Cowards take draws. I would rather die than take a draw. And then when it's your team, you're like, kick the ball out. Please kick the ball out.
Yes.
The draw is fine. So I would have been interested to see if Scotland would have taken the draw. But if to talk about it from Scotland's point of view, according to the Six Nations stats website, Scotland's 0 line breaks in this game. And what is a Gregor Townsend team if not a sexy attack? Yes. That's what it's always supposed to be about. You can forgive a Gregor Townsend team for a slightly iffy defense, for a 7 out of 10 set piece, which it was much less than that in this game, by the way. But those kind of things. But 0 line breaks, really? Like, how does that work? And yes, you have to credit Italy. And I am very much falling into the trap of Scotland lost it rather than Italy won it. Italy made it work and Scotland didn't in this case. And Quesada said in his post-match analysis, hey, we beat Scotland in the rain, we beat Australia in the rain, we beat Wales in the rain. I think we found the answer.
Maybe we're just good in the wet. Yeah. And that's why I sort of say, are we underestimating them? Because I don't think that there was a lot of discussion this time last week about certainly no discussion about possible weather, but I don't think there was a lot of discussion about the prospect of Italy just doing enough. I think they were given a chance, but the expectation was that Scotland would win well.
Yes, definitely. I really wasn't expecting much of this game, and hence, when it was actually on, I was actually multitasking doing something else because I thought it was going to be pretty much of a formality.
Yeah,
and obviously, I've turned out to be completely wrong at that. And sometimes being wrong is the most fun thing in sports, because that's when you get, like, when something unexpected happens. Because if you predict everything correctly all the time, you might as well not watch it. So
No, that's right. Yeah.
So, but yes, you're right. And I think, maybe it's just because, I'm in the UK, so it's all UK centric, and all the voices that I was hearing was the Scottish side, or, our UK compatriots of the Scottish side of things, or the English speaking world, or however you want to classify it, of if Scotland did lose, it would be a case of Scotland losing it rather than Italy winning it. And I'm very on the fence about it. I'm not sure whether Italy won it or Scotland lost it. Scotland, I think, still had 10 22-meter entries in this game, even if they just
did nothing with it.
A very average conversion rates, they still would have scored more than 18 points. So,
and that's why I sort of talk about the Italian defense, because even in wet weather, even if you are the best defensive team in the competition at that point in time, you are going to see line breaks. You just are. Like, someone is going to slip off a tackle and there'll be a line break. So for Scotland to make none, not one, is quite remarkable. Scotland looked genuinely like that was their first proper hit out of the year. Like, they looked like they'd come off a couple of trials. We're not reading too much into it, and they're into the first game. Like, they looked like they were starting a club competition. That's the sort of performance it was.
Yeah, and I think Scotland conceding 12 penalties when they had that much ball is kind of a bit inexcusable, really. When you've got
agree
60 to 70% territory and possession, so if you concede 12 penalties, it's like, how have you managed that? And they've conceded 8 penalties on defense when you consider how little defending they were doing. And like I said, on Scotland making 0 line breaks, Italy made 6 with 35% possession.
Yeah,
it's like it just speaks to Scotland not being switched on, not being prepared, not being mentally in the right thing. You talk about Scotland playing their first game of the season, and I do think that this is a Scotland thing, because it's such a heavily Glasgow team, obviously, because Glasgow are doing so well and so well coached and all the things like that. But then the players that they change, the players who usually aren't Glasgow, are the 9, the 10, and the 15. Now, Tom Jordan only played for Glasgow last year, so that's not as bad. But like, Blair Kinghorn is normally the other guy who goes in, and he's never played for Glasgow. And look, you can say Finn Russell is such an obvious talent upgrade that you can't not pick him, so you can't argue that one. Yes, I know he has played for Glasgow in the past, but not in like this Glasgow. But the 9, look, Ben White is a great player, and I was looking at some of his stats today, particularly his box kicking. I think is massively underrated, and I do think that if I do think if he wasn't based in France, he would have gone on the Lions tour a lot earlier and potentially seen test game time. It's particularly if you look at the junk minutes that Alex Mitchell got.
Yes.
But at Glasgow, you've got Jamie Doby, who played this game on the wing, and Wee Georgie Horn, who have been absolutely tearing up trees. They have been the talk of the URC this season based on this incredible battle they've both been having of genuinely, we don't know who is the better player. So if you're going to go 10, 11, 12 Glasgow players, why not include the Glasgow player who touches the ball the most?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ben White, you are a great player, but you're paying the price for being based in France.
It's a fair question. Tom Jordan at fullback was a curious thing, and we mentioned this with Charlie last week, how he's certainly capable of playing anywhere across the 3/4 line. Has played won a URC at 10. And Charlie actually mentioned that he had played a test at fullback before. So, I mean, utility value is good, but sometimes you just sort of need to play blokes where they're playing, I think.
If it's a case of just crowbarring the best players into the team, I can kind of get it on that front. The other thing was that Scotland went for a 5-3 split in this game, and they were the only team this week.
They were the only team that did it. They didn't go 6-2, didn't they? Yeah.
And you would think that surely this is a with a scrum half who can play wing to a professional standard. Not like Grant Williams or Jameson Gibson Park, who you've seen them fill in on the wing in an emergency and it went okay. No, like this guy is genuinely probably good enough to play wing at an international level, which he obviously did.
Which he did, yes.
When you got that and you got Tom Jordan who can play anywhere else, it's like, surely this is built for a 6'2", and you've got someone like Freddie Douglas who's been tearing up trees almost literally for Edinburgh. His stats are an absolute joke. It's kind of like, well, what has gone on there? And bench mismanagement has been a long-term criticism of Townsend.
Yeah, and a loss like this does not help his cause, because it means now that he is absolutely all in on a Calcutta Cup this weekend. And a win will change the narrative. There is no question about it. He's basically survived. You know, he's coached for 8 years because of Calcutta Cup performances, essentially. So here we go again.
Yeah, very much so. I think the big thing as well with the Gregor Townsend situation is there is such an obvious replacement, like right there, right next to him. Like people can literally like look over his shoulder and see him. Like, well, that guy. Let's try that guy. You know, type thing with Franco Smith. And it's really getting to the point now of like, why aren't they doing that?
Yes. Give me 2 reasons not to make. Yeah. And look, we'll see what happens this weekend, and what comes of it. Was France Ireland a bit deflating as far as starting games for a tournament go? I know, like I thought, right, that this is going to be the pick of this weekend, and I got up and watched it. And I got to halftime, and I went and made breakfast, and I didn't really rush back for the start of the second half. That was the sort of game that it was.
It was. I enjoyed it because I really enjoy watching France, and I was cheering on France. I'm a big Francophile when it comes to rugby, and so I enjoyed it from that point of view. It was the very start of the game. You know, it's easy to forget that Ireland kind of started better. They had a bunch of entries, they had a bunch of opportunities, didn't convert them, and France just kind of had to like, whoa, okay, steady on, you know.
We've just got to absorb all this. Yeah, you're right. The first 20-25 minutes were really, really absorbing rugby.
And what we saw in that 20 minutes, and also in the 20 minutes in the second half where Ireland did have their purple patch, was we saw game manager Dupont, which we almost never see, because when he plays for Toulouse, and he has mostly played for Toulouse. The last, couple of seasons, he's not played for France very much at all. Toulouse normally win their games by a lot. So you never have to see game management Dupont. You never have to see put the foot on the ball, kick for touch, slow rucks Dupont. So we got to see it in this game. And if you're really boring like me, you find that interesting. So that was cool. But then as France got more on top, it was interesting seeing that power shift from Dupont to Jalibert. And this is the whole thing, the whole Jalibert Dupont. Will it work? You know, these are the 2 most talented players in Europe. Why can't they play together? We seem to have now seen them both make a concerted effort to make it work. Like not just kind of I'm really good, you're really good, let's just jouer, kind of like, no, let's sit down, let's have a think. Let's write on some post-it notes, stick it on the wall. You know, how do we make each other better players? Yes, you're right. Yes,
you're right.
And it seemed to go pretty okay in this game. Jalibert obviously scored one, set up another. Dupont, the thing that everybody is saying is Dupont had a normal-ish game, but by his standards. But if he was any other scrum half in the world, you'd say, God, he was amazing. But because it's Dupont, it was just like, he didn't. Yeah, he was
fine. Yes, there was a bit of like that. Ireland are in a really interesting space, and I feel like we've been saying this for 6 months now. It's a real holding pattern, is how I've described it. Yeah, what have they changed from what they were doing 3 years ago? How would they change it? What would they do differently? And none of that is particularly clear at the moment. And they're a fascinating team because of what they're not doing, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so much to unpick, and the thing with Ireland has been, whilst they've been going through this, is so many people have been calling it. So many people have been saying like, this is
true.
This is about to happen. You know, this dip isn't a kind of a blip dip. It's kind of a increasingly steep slope that they're going to start sliding down.
We're getting worryingly close to falling off a cliff dip.
Yes, and it was. So I was chatting to someone about this, and they were saying, look, say against Italy, you know, because the game against Italy is now a no-win situation, one of those classic no-wins where, you know, despite Italy winning their last game, if Ireland put 50 on them, people go, oh, it's Italy. And if Ireland squeak it by 2 points, people go, well, that's terrible. So it's a no-win situation.
Yes.
Now, what he could do, if, you know, to salvage kind of getting some value out of that game, if we assume that the result is a formality, which obviously we were wrong about last week, but if Andy Farrell was to make a load of changes and put an experimental team out there and throw in some 20, 21, 22-year-old guys, then that could salvage the situation. But then all that would lead to is people saying, great, you should have done that 2 years ago.
Why didn't you do that 2 years ago? Exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yes. Classic no-win is where it really is.
Absolutely. And I do feel a bit for Farrell because he just won a Lions tour. Like he's got a right to like stand up in the press conference and say, have you seen your winning record under me? Have you seen that trophy cabinet that I've supplied you to? And you're questioning me.
Yeah.
However, we are kind of in the house that Farrell built, and if it's falling down, what can you say?
Yes, exactly. That's a good point. It's a really good point. On Wales, right? And I feel like I need to ask this delicately. Should England have run up a bigger cricket score than they did? Because they did that comfortably.
Yes, they should have scored more than they did. For some bizarre reason, because I'm clearly something wrong with me, I watched most of the game back, most of the full 80 back, so I've seen it twice. I had blanked from my mind that England had 2 tries disallowed in this game. And yes, so they should have probably hit 60. If you look at like Henry Arundel's tries, because this was a point that I was making, like which England players have actually got a highlights reel out of that game? Like you can say Arundel scored a hat-trick, but they were all unopposed run-ins. In fact, for one of them, he was actually over the try line already by the time he called the ball. So, he's not really getting, you know, an Instagram reel out of that game. George Ford, maybe if you really like kicking, then you can get a George Ford reel out of that game. When I say George Ford kicked the leather off it, George Ford was 20 meters short of kicking a full kilometer in this game.
Yes. George Ford was running off the side of the field, finding more leather to put on the ball to kick it off. Yes, he was.
Yes, absolutely.
But that's interesting in itself because again, there was, you know, this was a George Ford masterclass, and you know, and you know, all the praise and everything that's been directed towards him is all completely deserved. Don't. I'm not certainly trying to undersell that, but it feels like that what's not being said about all this absolute celebration of George Ford, England fly half, is there's sort of this undercurrent of why didn't we pick him like 2 years ago? Why didn't he go on the Lions tour?
Yeah, and the whole Marcus Smith thing. You know, Marcus Smith is still on a central contract with England, and I don't see how he fits into these plans at all. Now, he keeps making 23s, but I think it's pretty conclusive that England played better with either George Ford or what's his name? Finn Smith.
Finn Smith,
at 10.
At 10, yeah.
And I do not think that Marcus Smith is a fullback on any planet. So,
no. And neither do Harlequins, for the record. You know, if there was a future for Marcus Smith at fullback, you would think Harlequins would go, all right, well, let's see if we can play him at fullback.
Yeah, so the answer to why they didn't pick George Ford was they were trying to do the Marcus Smith thing. And I do think that England for a few years, in fact, it's only really pretty recently. I mean, it's less than a year ago they were booed during playing Scotland. They were booed off the pitch at half time.
The box kicking the cover off it. Yes.
We're really losing the PR battle with their fans. And you can imagine, like, after they're getting booed off, you know, Steve Borthwick's going to have a chat with someone up in the RFU who's going to say, look, you're going to need to do something to get these fans on side. And one of the suggestions would have been, at one point, would have been play Marcus Smith, because he's, at one point, was what all of the English press was calling for him to do. So, and I do think there probably are cases over Borthwick's tenure where he has given in to media pressure. And by the way, I think probably the players would have exerted that on him as well, of saying, we don't like being booed, Steve. You know, can we change it up?
Yeah. Could we do something that means that we don't get booed this way?
Yeah.
Yes,
true.
So
that's probably why they didn't pick George Ford, but Borthwick has ended up doubling down on the most kick-heavy game you have ever seen in your life. And guess what? 12 wins in a row now. So
exactly. And he's got, all right, if we are going to kick the ball, how do we make that work for us? Well, how we make that work is we become maybe the best kick chase team in the game. And we will just put contestable after contestable after contestable, and we will compete and compete and compete. And even if we only get 5 out of 10 of them back, that's 5 that the opposition don't get, and that's 5 that we can do something with. And so, you know, play to your strengths, I suppose.
Wales' complete lack of plan to deal with that, though, really baffled me. Like, they just got sucked into this long kicking game. Like, I'll just double check, but I think the longest kicking team at the weekend was England, and I'm pretty sure that the second longest kicking team was Wales, of just kicking it straight back to them. And the
we don't know what to do with this. You have it.
And I when I went back and watched the game, I actually ended up counting again. Very boring, man. And I actually counted that Dan Edwards, the Wales fly half, kicked the ball to George Ford 6 times in the game.
Wow.
He only passed to a teammate 9 times.
Wow.
So the person that Dan Edwards has given the ball to most is George Ford.
George Ford. Now that is analysis.
Sorry, France did actually outkick Wales by 10 meters. So Wales.
There you go. But you're right, and it's very similar to what New Zealand did at Twickenham in November. They got sucked into this. Oh, we don't really know what to do with all this high ball stuff, so we're just going to kick it back along at you. And yeah.
Really disappointing from Wales in every facet. And that kind of what you said, if you go back to your initial question of should England have scored more, I'm relieved that this hasn't happened, but because I'm so jaded, I thought that people after the game would say, hey, we lost by 60 points last year and only 40 points this year. See, progress.
That's progress.
And I would have to be like, did you see that first half? What of, if not the worst half of rugby the Six Nations has ever seen?
Yes. That's a fair point. And look, there is a bigger discussion to be had about Welsh rugby that we will have soon enough too. So it's a really interesting. Even from the outside, that 80 minutes was a real peer behind the curtains of what's going on in Wales at the moment. So this week, mate, to bring in sort of the games of the week for round 2, what do you like here? So Ireland, Italy at the Aviva on Saturday. Those times on the YouTube screen are obviously my Australian times. Ireland, Italy at the Aviva, Scotland, England at Murrayfield is going to be a belter because they just always are, and then Wales, France could be anything. Is all the attention just obviously on the Calcutta Cup game this weekend?
I think it has to be, because no matter what happens in that game, it's a talking point. Like however the game goes,
the inevitable Calcutta
Cup, thrilling game. If it's one-sided, if it's close, if England win and Scotland win, it's the dominating talking point. No matter what. So if you're if you're a graphics designer or something, just like spend all week making graphics for that game because they're all going to get
Yes.
used up and stuff. I think the other two games are all about selections. Like we talked about Ireland already, of which way do they go? Do they put out their strongest team and try and prove something? I don't know what. Or do they finally bite the bullet 2 years too late? And then for Wales, France, I mean, Steve Tandy said he's not going to be knee-jerk and change up his team. I mean, there's there's that. There's not being knee-jerk, and there's also not doing anything. There's there's that. From a France point of view,
it's a fine line, mate, between knee-jerk and not doing anything.
Absolutely. And from a France point of view, I've been kind of floating the conspiracy theory, well, not conspiracy theory, but the unpopular theory, and I've been shot down so far, that why would France put out their strongest team in this game? Because the Six Nations has gone from 7 weeks to 6. They've lost a rest week. Even France B team probably gets a bonus point against Wales by halftime.
Yes.
So why not rotate for this game?
Why not run out
the
yeah. Why? No, it's a good point. And at some point, all the teams are going to have a game where they just say, no, we need to put out the Southern Hemisphere July tour team.
We've got that coming again in July because
yes,
France have got New Zealand first up again.
Yes, indeed. But it's Nations Championship. This time it means something.
Oh, yes, of course.
We'll see. Yeah, look, it is going to be fascinating this weekend to see what sort of reactions we get, what sort of momentum starts building in some cases, to see where the narrative switch is going to be, because there will be one somewhere. And it's just going to be, every week is fascinating in the Six Nations for different reasons every week, but that's what makes the tournament one of the
it's
greats.
Because it's one-off games, because there's no do-over like there is in the Rugby Championship, where you go, oh, that was like Ellis Park, that was weird. At least there's another game next week to get the right results.
Yes,
that kind of
thing. At least we can go to Cape Town and get the pants scared off us again. Yes, yes.
If you in the Six Nations, if you screwed up, It's too late. It's over.
Yeah, it's fair.
So that's what makes it more fun, in my opinion.
Yes, no, I agree with you, mate. This has been a super quick. I can't believe how quick this chat's gone, but it has been great as always. Love the takes on everything. Love the way you've explained things. It is always good to chat to you, mate. As always, I really appreciate you popping on. My pleasure, mate. My pleasure. Always talking to you. Absolutely. Do go and check out Huw's channel. HG Rugby on YouTube is all over YouTube. He's all over the socials as well. So go and find some really, really good stuff, even appealing to the masses in South Africa on Lekker Rugby as well. So no, thank you, mate. It's been great. Cheers, mate. Thanks, guys. Great to have Huw Griffin on 8-9 Rugby for the first time in 2026, and that will not be the last time in 2026. A wonderful rugby content creator, and you should definitely go and check out his channel, which I'll stick down here in the show notes as well. And I can't wait to keep the co-hosts coming every week. It's what I'm really, really enjoying about the evolution of the 8-9 Rugby. On 8-9 Rugby this week, Sean Maloney joins me on the next episode of the Oz Rugby Scene, where we'll kick straight into a proper preview of the first week of Super Rugby Pacific, which kicks off on both sides of the Tasman this weekend. So don't miss that. That's 8-9 Rugby on YouTube, plus wherever you pod as well. And have you found 8-9 Rugby on Substack yet? Jeff Parks and I have been busy over the Australian summer building up a new outlet for rugby coverage down this way, where we hope that you'll join us and join in the discussion as well. We're adding a host of names that you know to bring unique insights and well-respected rugby opinions that you love as well. So find us on Substack, subscribe now to the exclusive home of Jeff's very widely regarded column, The Wrap, every Monday, plus plenty more great writing for the rest of the week as well. And his first wrap of 2026 out this week was an absolute beauty. So I think then that's 8-9 Rugby done for another week. My sincere thanks to Huw Griffin once again. Tell us what you think, as always, by finding 8-9 Rugby on the socials. Have your say on the 8-9 YouTube channel. And you can find me on the socials at BMC Sport as well. This is 8-9 Rugby. We will be back in your ears this week with Sean Maloney on the Oz rugby scene.